Yeah. No.
Okay, welcome to the Melbourne AWS User Group Meetup number 142 for October 2024. Right. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we're meeting today, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging. For those of you who have not been here before, tonight's your first night. Keep in the back of your mind that we do have a code of conduct at these events. The TLDR is up on the screen, the full version is on our website. The long and the short of it is, be nice to each other. Right? We're an open community. The idea here is to share knowledge and help each other. So, be nice to people, people will be nice to you. And if you do have any concerns, please feel free to come and talk to one of the organisers who are waving their hands at the moment. We are also available all over the joint. Rob mentioned we are streaming on YouTube. We are also available on LinkedIn and Mastodon. The X has been gone for some while now. Also have the website and slides are in a different order tonight. That failed miserably. Anyway, so 6:30, doing the introductions. We'll then do a little bit of a what's new in AWS for October. We then have two speakers coming up. We've got Jason Wood on GitOps and CloudFormation. And then we've got Jose talking about the worldwide waste of cloud waste and cleaning up EBS volumes using Lambda and CloudFormation. So two interesting talks tonight. We'll finish off the night with our marketplace, give everybody an opportunity if you're looking to hire, do a little bit of a call out, and we can have people come and talk to you after the fact. Then we'll wrap up about 8 o'clock and all go home before it gets too dark. The ta-da from before, we are also on Slack. So if you are not on Slack, please feel free to join our Slack community. We have up over 1,000 people there at the moment. Link is on the bottom of the screen. Lot of conversations there, particularly during outage time for obvious reasons. It's been getting a little bit more activity lately, particularly with some memes and commentary around what's going on in the world. You can also partake tonight in the YouTube comments. If you have any questions, please feel free to post them there and we'll pass the questions on to the presenters. Events like this wouldn't be possible without our sponsors, so we'd like to thank our gold sponsor, Mantel Group, for their continued support over the course of 2024, and our silver sponsor, Civo. We also would like to do a big call out for our venue sponsor, NAB, who graciously gives us this venue to host the event at every month. As I mentioned before, Slack, we've got jobs, we've got outages, we've got announcements. comments there around organising the nights, any other events that might be going on around the place. So if you haven't joined, please join. And beyond sort of joining Slack, please get involved. Help craft this community to be what you want it to be. We are always on the lookout for speakers. We do have enough speakers for 2024, but that's only because it's October and we only have 1 month left, so we kind of win that one by default. But we are starting to look for sponsors for speakers for 2025. So if you would like to give a presentation at this meetup, again, please feel free, come and talk to one of the organisers, jump on the website, there is a form there you can fill out. We are looking for speakers of all experience levels. If you've found something interesting in AWS, you want to talk about your journey of learning AWS, we'd love to hear from you. If you want to get real in the weeds and talk about some level 400 crazy, that's fine too. So feel free to reach out. The Freudian slips are working against me tonight, but we are also looking for sponsors. Again, it's October, 2025 is around the corner, so if your organisation would like to be a sponsor, get your name up in nice big flashing lights and help drive this community for another year, please come and see me, the Treasurer. I would like your money. I am happy to do things for money. So if you want to know what those things are, legal things. Outfits, mate. We can let's talk. Come talk. Always looking for sponsors. If you as an individual don't have sponsor kind of money, we are also looking for volunteers and organisers. It's that point in time where we're looking for some other people to raise their hand and become organisers, help coordinate the events, book speakers, find sponsors, coordinate venues, order the drinks, the food, all of those sorts of things. So if you're sort of sitting there going, I have too much free time, what do I do with all this free time? Come talk to us. We have we have a lot of things we can do to help fill that time. Serious note though, again, you don't have to be an AWS expert, you don't have to be working in the AWS space to be an organiser. Any walk of life, any skill level, love to have you.
I would also add, you don't have to be able to be here every month.
No, that is also a very big one. There is no expectation that you be here every month. There is no expectation that you chip in every month. We're just looking for people to help. The more people we have that are available to help, the better events that we can put on for people. So again, if that sort of tickles your fancy, and it doesn't necessarily need to be tonight, you can reach out to us on Slack. You can come another month and say, yep, I've had to think about it, that's for me. Feel free to have a chat. Also, don't feel bad if that's not for you, right? Because not everybody has to be a volunteer. You are allowed to just come and enjoy the event. Speaking of events, there are a couple of things coming up throughout the rest of the year. The big one obviously being reInvent, the beginning of December over in lovely Las Vegas, a week and a half after the Grand Prix. So most of the stuff should probably be packed up by then. Anybody going, thinking of going? Yeah, a few people. Cool, have fun. I will not be going, not this year. And big call out, there is also, Australia is having an AWS Community Day next year in Brisbane. Exact dates, location and all of that are still yet to be defined. It will be August sometime in Brisbane somewhere. Details to come. Keep an eye out. So that should be a good one. A Community Day is an event similar to a meetup. It is run by the AWS community, focused on the AWS community, presenting to the AWS community. AWS support the event but don't have any say in what gets presented, what gets talked about or anything like that. So it is one of those from the coalface kind of places, whereas your reInvents and your summits of the world are more from the world of AWS through the eyes of AWS. Not that there's anything wrong with that, it's just a different way of looking at things. We also have the AWS Melbourne Well Architected meetup on the 13th of November up at Mantel office. No, that's the AWS office at 555. So AWS office, 13th of November. We then also have the serverless meetup at the Mantel office on the 21st of November. I don't think they've got their speakers organised as of yet, so I can't tell you what the topic is. But it's usually something pretty interesting, obviously serverless related. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to sort of work that one out. All right, so they're kind of the community announcements. On to the what's new. We are, after all, here to talk about AWS goodness. What has happened in the world of AWS over the last sort of month? Melbourne got an update to WAF, bot and fraud control rule groups now available. Yay! Not the world's most exciting thing to come to Melbourne, but hey, nice that it's here. In Sydney got new instances. Less, yay. Yeah, yeah. Look, if anyone's using the D3EN, I'd really like to know your use case, like what you need a server with 16 terabytes of RAM for. I'd really like to hear that it's not SAP HANA, because, and yeah, they're expensive. But yeah, new G6 and D3ENs in Sydney. Databases got a little bit of love, got a lot of love, but they're not anything overly sort of wowie, with the one exception, that one in the middle. Amazon Aurora PostgreSQL now supports local write forwarding. That's kind of a mouthful, but really what that means is when you've got your PostgreSQL and you have your read replicas, you now don't necessarily need to worry about reconfiguring your application to send writes to one server and reads to another server. You can just fire it all off to the read replica, and then Aurora will take care of it all in the background and redirect that traffic to the right node. Yeah. So yeah, that makes life a little bit easier. Of course, if you've already got Aurora PostgreSQL read replicas, then your application probably already supports splitting the writes and the reads, but we won't go down that road. If it doesn't, and you're just looking to do it, now it's a lot easier to do. Moving on to compute. Compute Optimizer now supports 80 new EC2 instance types. Again, not an overly exciting thing, except 80 instance types almost makes Compute Optimizer actually useful now, because it actually covers most of their instance types now until the end of next month when reInvent happens and they release a whole heap of new instances, and then we're back in the problem where it's only going to recommend half the fleet. Image Builder now supports Apple Mac OS, because you've always admitted that the one thing that Image Builder has been lacking is the ability to build Mac images, because let's face it, everybody runs Mac EC2 instances. Yeah, that 24 hours of minimum billing, gotta love it. That is the thing. Mac OS EC2 instances can be very, very useful. Go back and watch one of my previous presentations on how we automate the generation of these slides every month. And because we were going to use a Mac EC2 instance, the only problem is I only need it for about 10 minutes, and the minimum billing period for a Mac OS EC2 instance is 24 hours. So for the 10 minutes I needed, I was going to pay a full day of usage. So you do not get Apple tax for that. That is all AWS tax. Moving on to containers. For those of you who are using BottleRocket, because everybody runs BottleRocket on-prem for their containers because nobody uses Kubernetes. NVIDIA GPUs now support time slicing for AI ML workloads. Super cool if you happen to run BottleRocket, if you're one of the 10 people that does. EKS now supports Amazon Application Recovery Controller, or ARC. That's actually a really big deal for the Kubernetes people. That basically gives Kubernetes the ability to understand multi-region, multi-availability zone, the consequences of an availability zone going down and what that means for the wider cluster configuration and all of those sorts of things. It gives it a lot more visibility into what a response should be to a failure scenario. So a lot of cool options that you've now got in Kubernetes off the back of that. But yeah, EKS now also supports NVIDIA and AWS Neuron accelerated instance types using Amazon Linux 2023 because it wouldn't be an AWS session if we didn't work machine learning and AI in there somewhere. Speaking of which, that's a whole heap of text because not a month goes past now that AWS doesn't do at least 20 machine learning somethings. Look, the key ones there are Claude 3.5, the new Claude 3.5 Sonnet model that does the whole computer use thing where it'll move your keyboard, move your mouse, interact with the screen, can now run on Bedrock, assuming that you can tick the boxes and that you've got a requirement model and all of those sorts of bits and pieces. Some new Q business stuff, some new Bedrock agent stuff, some new Poly stuff. The new synthetic generative voices for Poly is kind of interesting because they now have more realistic voices for Amazon Poly, and the reason that that is cool is that they are Australian dialect. So you can actually have Australian voices. Cool. So yay, fun. You also have the ability to evaluate custom models on Bedrock and all of those sorts of things. Hashtag not available in Australia. You've got to go use one of the US regions for that. Networking, Firewall Manager now supports retrofitting web ACLs. Again, really cool if it's a pain, like if you've been doing web ACLs. Not so cool because if you're not, because that's not actually really going to impact you all that much. More AI, ML, auto scaling, which is kind of cool. That the EFA update is kind of interesting because it gives you the ability to scale your elastic fabric adapter without having to hook in additional elastic network adapters, which can cause, which is basically your network cards, because if you expand your fabric across multiple network cards, then Linux can get into a real round-robin networking loopback situation. Again, one of those things that if you're having to deal with it because you need the additional bandwidth for your ML workloads, this is totally going to solve your problem. For the other 99.95% of the population on planet Earth, completely irrelevant. CloudFront launches support for JA4 fingerprinting, another one of those things. JA4 fingerprinting is going to be really cool in the bot detection sort of space. It basically gives you the ability to fingerprint the encrypted signature of the end user and have that fingerprint flow the whole way through your application stack so that you can identify a particular user without any user identifiable information in the fingerprint. So really nice. It will now actually flow all the way through CloudFront back into your application so you can do some really nice malware detection, rerouting sort of things on the fly. CloudFront at Edge and all those sorts of fun bits and pieces. Moving into serverless, yay! SES now supports TLS version for outgoing messages, about freaking time. Lambda supports using custom serializers in Java runtimes if you're crazy enough to be using Java. New code editor in browser. So if you're one of those people like me who edits their Lambda code in the browser, in the console, because who needs a CI/CD pipeline and who needs to do things properly? Yeah, you now have like a VS Code-esque editor rather than the old crummy thing that used to be there, which is actually kind of nice because now it's a lot more easy for me to not do the right thing. Lambda console now supports real-time logging analysis, which means, again, it just makes my life even easier to do things the wrong way. Console now supports key function insights, and Lambda now detects and stops recursive loopbacks between Lambda and S3. Again, one of those things, if you've ever had an event trigger off an S3 bucket fire a Lambda that touches the S3 bucket that fires off the Lambda that touches the S3 bucket, etc., rinse and repeat, and you've woken up the next morning to a $10,000 AWS bill, yeah. Not anymore. See? AWS are looking after you sometimes. AWS Trust and Safety Center now available in AWS Repost. That's just a fancy way of saying more end-user generated content is now more easily available to you. So you don't have to rely as much on their official documentation. And IAM Identity Center simplifies calls to AWS services in a single identity context. If that makes sense to you, that's going to be really cool. That's really nice for when you're using your Identity Center and your single sign-on. In the storage space, two main ones to call out. A little bit of a change to the list buckets API in S3. Just means that you can actually now list your buckets per region, whereas you used to only be able to list all your buckets in an account. Again, if you've got a use case for it, it's going to be really useful otherwise. And EFS now supports up to 60 gigabits, which is a significant increase in read throughput. So if you've been pushing your EFS to the limit, congratulations, now got a higher limit. Dev and Ops, not going to spend too much time on this. The key takeaways here are code pipeline, code build, got some more cool stuff. Code pipeline's been getting a lot of love over the last sort of 6 months. It now might actually be a usable, code pipeline solution. You can now pause pipelines. You can now restart pipelines. I think that was added about 2 months ago. You can now retry failed actions in your pipelines. So a lot of cool functionality being added to that that you've previously had to go third party to get. So now you can get that out of the box. And 10-second side note on Code Pipeline, because it is only $1 per active pipeline per month, it's actually really affordable. And now that it's got a lot of these features, you can kind of sit there and go, well, do I really need to be paying, significant monies to some of the other vendors, or I can just, use pipelines. There's a much bigger use case for that sort of stuff now. And you can also skip stages, which is kind of nice. The only other call out there, Corretto 8 and 11. I know we have some Corretto fans in the audience. They might be watching online. EOL dates for version 8 and version 11 have been extended from 2026 and 2030 to 2028 and 2032 respectively. So you've got an extra couple of years to keep using those if you're a Corretto fanatic. A few other bits and pieces. Application Composer is now called Infrastructure Composer. Just a little bit of a change there. AWS now supports partial card payments. You ever sat there and gone, I only want to pay half my AWS bill on my credit card this month? Yeah, you can actually now do that. Or you can use 2 different credit cards to pay your bill. You used to only be able to pay the full invoice amount. Now you can actually spread that across multiple payments. If that's for you, then good on you. Deadline Cloud now supports job, step, and task-related events. If you're using Deadline Cloud, then this is a nice way for Deadline Cloud to now be able to integrate nicer into the rest of your serverless ecosystem. Deadline Cloud, for those who don't play in the visual effects space, is your render farm as a service. So if you're doing 3D Maya or Unity or any of those sorts of visual effects, if you're the next Pixar up and coming, Deadline Cloud is your scale out, scale in render farm capability. You've now got the ability to integrate that back into your serverless environment. So if you then want to do tagging and metadata creation and all of those sorts of bits and pieces, nice capability there. Marketplace now supports offering in full new currency in non-US bank accounts for disbursement. If you're someone who happens to sell something on the marketplace, you can now actually bill your Australian customers in Australian dollars and get it paid into an Australian bank account. Which, again, if you're one of those people selling on marketplace in Australia, that's a cool thing. Everybody else probably doesn't care. I care, but yeah, you guys probably don't. The very last one, which I'm kind of half cutting off on the video, so I apologize, announcing general availability of console to code to generate code. Before I mentioned that Lambda has now made it easier for me to do things the wrong way by editing code in the console. Yeah, now you can actually go and click ops an environment, push a button, and it will actually spit out the CDK or the CloudFormation to do that for you using generative AI so that it actually does it in a reusable way as opposed to just here's a bunch of gobbledygook that you're then going to need to spend the next 4 days rewriting to make it actually useful. Not saying that generative AI always creates useful code, but better code, shall we say. So this is a really nice way for you to POC something in the console, get it up, get it running, validate the use case, and then push a button and go, right, that's my, that's the beginnings of my CDK or my CloudFormation code. It will also do CLI code. So if you actually want to do everything through CLI instead, because you love Bash, then it will do that too. So.
Weird gimmick for that one. So the CLI, that's free. Doing all the stuff in either CloudFormation or CDK, that has a limit unless you have the Amazon Q Pro plan. So if people want to be cheap and they want to do a lot of it, more likely people are probably going to try to do bash scripts. Here's how we do our CLI. Here's how we do all of our IOC. Hi, thanks for the microphone. I could have used that earlier. No, so to that point, if you want to be able to do it with the CLI commands, that's great, that's free. If you want to do it with the generative AI stuff for CDK or CloudFormation, then that does have limitations. So yeah, I fully expect there's going to be a couple of environments out there that are just going to have giant shell scripts saying this is how we deploy our environment. And then at some point we're going to get asked to go in among all of us and get asked, hey,
turn this into CDK. Turn this into
here's our IAC. Can you make this work better? And then we run for the hills.
Yeah. No, you just pump it back into Q developer and say, rewrite this in CDK. Anyway, I digress. With that, that is the end of the What's New segment. So you're now all officially caught up in the world of AWS for October. With that, I will hand over to Jason, who is going to walk us through GitOps for CloudFormation. Woo!
Are you still muted or unmuted? Yep, I've got your slides. We can switch.
All right. Hi, everyone. So we had a regular scheduled speaker got pulled out and was unable to speak. So I put my hand up to do a talk this event. So I'd written a blog post just the other week about GitOps and CloudFormation. So yeah, I thought, why the hell not? So a little bit about me. I am an AWS ambassador, community builder, and I'm an organizer for this user group. But you don't really want to hear about me. So what is GitOps? The way that I look at it, it's your modern approach to managing your infrastructure as code. Utilizing Git repos, so you have all the goodness that software developer friends have been using for a while. So that's management of your code, peer reviews, and utilizing pipelines to deploy that infrastructure. So that's really good. But how do we get that code from our Git repo into AWS? So I'm going to go through a few options for how we can get that from Git into AWS through some sort of pipeline. And the first one that I'll start off with is code commit and code pipeline. So this one's sort of really handy if you're all in on AWS and you want to sort of keep it in the family, so to speak. It does have a few drawbacks, like it's nice and easy. Code commit works as a Git repo. It's not super functional, like it doesn't have all the bells and whistles that you might get with some of your other repos. But it does, it's using your native tooling, native security, and the whole sort of pipeline from your repo through your code pipeline, through your CloudFormation. It's all managed by AWS, so if you're having some issues, you have one vendor to go and talk to. The big drawback with that at the moment is code commit is no longer being supported. But, well, it's supported, but you can't have any new accounts there. If you had a code code commit in any of your accounts in your org, you can still deploy new code commit repos in there. Anything that you've previously had is all still functional, but nothing new. So that's a bit of a bummer. Right, but you've got your pipelines, you've got your stuff. What can you do next? I've got my pipelines. Code commit is no longer really being actively supported, so what do I do? AWS came out with a really cool, so they've had a connector for quite some time. It used to be called CodeStar. CodeStar has also been killed off by AWS, so they've renamed this to Code Connect. And it's a way that will let you connect to various popular repos. So GitHub, GitHub Enterprise, GitLab, GitLab Self-Hosted, and Bitbucket Cloud. And it's a really cool way that will let you use any existing pipelines. You can take all your code out of code commit, pop it into one of the supported repos, and just update and post your source. So this is a good sort of hybrid. You get to use sort of better supported Git repo. Everything else is still managed by AWS, and the connector that you've got is supported by AWS. So, how do we create the connection? And it's really a fairly simple step. So first off, we start in our developer tools. We go to connections, and then we go to create a new connection. As you can see, choose our options, and for this one, I'm using GitHub, and you type in your connection name. Click on connect, and then you wait for a little bit, and it pops up your login to GitHub. You authenticate, and your connection is almost created. Click connect, and voila, you have your connection created. All right, you can do a couple of extra things there, but by and large, once you're at that state, you're all good, your connection's there, and you're all done and can start using it. All right, so what do we do? If you want to modify your pipelines, if you've got an existing code pipeline, or hell, even if you just want to write a new one, for modifying, it's really only a couple of options that you need to worry about. The provider, you change that from code commit to it's still called CodeStar source connection. And then you just change some of the options that's in the configuration section, and bang, that's it. The rest of your pipeline, as long as the structure of your repo that you've now moved from code commit into GitHub is still all the same, that's it. Don't need to change anything else in your pipeline. So really nice way to move out of code commit and still, without having to completely rewrite all your pipelines and all that sort of stuff. So it's very handy. If you need anything, got a couple of QR codes there. So the connection source documentation, and documentation on the configuration section. Rob, can I just get you to take me off for a sec? So if anyone wants to grab that second QR code, yeah, you can. So, all right. So wrap up for Code Connection. It's a good, easy way if you want to stay within the AWS environment but connect to better repos. One of the limitations that you had with the code commit is if you use the old method of triggering your pipelines off code commit, they all needed to be in the same account. Even triggering off using event bus to trigger your pipelines, it's still a lot easier to do it in the same account. So, but now, if you're going outside and changing the source, you can move your pipelines into local accounts. That will add an extra level of security there. Someone, you know, if you put gates into your pipelines and someone hacks your GitHub, changes all your source code and goes to push it out to prod, you've now got a method to nicely stop them and things like that. So apart from all that goodness, you're also adding a bit of extra security in there with only slight modifications. All right, some of us, unfortunately, work in corporates that have a big Microsoft footprint. We're using Teams, we're using Exchange, we're using all these Microsoft tools, and the corporate folks say, hey, your repo needs to be Azure DevOps. Yay! It's not actually that bad, but you want to use that. You're using your Azure DevOps pipelines. How do I get that into AWS? Thankfully, AWS have released this really cool tool called AWS Toolkit for Azure DevOps. It's a free extension that you get from the marketplace. Got a couple of great blogs there. One from AWS. The other one is another community builder talking about how to configure all of this stuff. I'd highly recommend, if you need to do anything in there, they're really cool, go have a look. But I will take you through a quick-ish overview on how to configure AWS Toolkit in Azure. All right, so we start off, you have your Azure repo in there, and we wait for past Jason to look and show you what's actually. Current Jason, you did not press play. So now we should be playing. All right. So we've got Azure repo, basic Git repo, and we want to configure up. So you go up to the marketplace, browse. I recommend opening in a new thing. All right. These are all your options in the marketplace. Search. And it takes a little bit, and then it will pop up and give you your options to install. You've already got it installed here, do that, or go and talk to your admin and say, hey, please install Azure Toolkit for me. Once that's installed, you need to create a service connection. That's how you do your authentication part. Right, so click on there, and you'll see that you now get that AWS option. You go down, click next, and that's where you fill in all your connection details back to your accounts and the information to create them. A little bit down there. If you check that, then you can use that with any of your pipelines. Otherwise, if you leave that unchecked, you need to go in and configure what pipelines can use those connectors and all that. It's not too much of a pain, but yeah, much easier if you click that. All right, so let's go down, have a look at our repos. And if you've already got a pipeline, so that's what one sort of looks like there, that's basic. One thing that I did come across is if you're using config files, they need to be in JSON and they need to be in that format. I've had them working quite happily in other formats, in other pipelines, but Azure was giving me all sorts of errors, and I found out it only really supports that sort of template. All right, creating your first one. Go through, click open. You can see there's other repos that you can use, but for this, we're looking at coming straight from the repo. All right, if you've already got a pipeline with that name, azure-pipeline.yaml, it will open that up. And you can go and start to run that pipeline or save it, as we've done there. Right. Now, if you've already got a pipeline and you want to go and create a new one, come on. Right. First bit looks relatively the same. Do that, select repo. But now you've got two options. So the bottom one, click that, look pretty much like we had before. If you've got an existing pipeline file in there, you can do that. Or creating a new one, click that, it gives you sort of a base template. All right, so but we don't want all of that junk. And this is where the cool thing is, you can click on the helper section, and this is all the options that you get with that AWS toolkit. So you can do more than just code pipeline. No, not code pipeline, CloudFormation. Lots of options, but we'll show you CloudFormation. So it pops up and gives you everything that you want to fill in. So that first one, that's those service connections that you created earlier. And then you search for your region, either by name or you can put in AP, you know, the region identifier, and then just put in your all the other bits that you want there, your template file. You know, if it's stored in an S3 bucket instead of repo, you can put the bucket info. And yeah, if you use your that's where you enter in your config files. Right, and choose your other options. If you want to do your connections there, but you know, we just want to deploy straight. There. So you got extra options if you want to put in roles and so forth, but we're just doing a basic. Click apply, and like it fills out everything for you, which I think like is pretty cool. Especially if you're not used to Azure pipelines and you're trying to do this for your first time. Another cool thing you'll see there when you click OK, it actually goes and does a commit into your repo. And so you can see it creates a new one, and in the repo we've now got the pipeline -1. So yeah, I mean, a lot of us may not necessarily like working in Azure DevOps or so forth, but if you're forced into that type of an environment, you've got a nice option. It's usable, functional. I mean, I'd rather work in other things, but you know, corporate requirements may force you into that sort of a situation. The AWS toolkit for Azure DevOps makes it bearable. All right, and so what's our other option, we could go the whole hog with third party. So, you know, that's a good one if you want to do things your own way. So, you know, choose your own Git repo, you know, GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, Azure DevOps, whatever the hell repo you want. Choose your preferred pipeline. Is it BuildKite? Do you want to use Jenkins? Whatever. And then go and deploy via CloudFormation with whichever option your pipeline supports. I mean, a lot of things like, you know, BuildKite and Jenkins, you sort of create your a script with all your AWS CLIs, which might be helpful if you've prototyped and generated that as CLIs, tie in from the mats, or, you know, they may have plugins similar, but that is definitely an extra option. Just choose your Git repo, choose your pipeline, just make sure it has a way to connect in. But most of those, if it doesn't have a nice plugin, it usually gives you an option to, you know, deploy a bash script where you call all your CloudFormation CLIs. Okay, so we've had a look at a few different strategies and options there. They've all got their own sort of strengths and weaknesses. You know, from full, I'm all in AWS, you get benefits of, you know, if you've got existing stuff, you want to keep everything in with the one provider for support. Obviously, the Code Commit one has that requirement that you already need to have been using Code Commit. Or, you know, probably my preferred option at the moment is utilizing Code Connection. You know, most people nowadays are either using sort of GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, are really your three big Git repos right now. So that'll cover you there. And it gives you that, you know, AWS support for the rest of things. Yeah. DevOps, also good, like if you're in a mixed team supporting Azure and AWS, you know, Azure DevOps might be an option. More so it'll be if you're sort of forced into there by your corporate overlords. Or, hey, you want to just go the full flex. Usually that's probably a good one if you're in a developer-heavy environment where they've already got their own preferred repos, they've got their own pipelines for their software development. Yeah, you can then look at options to still utilize all those things that you've already got and just deploy your CloudFormation templates via your bash scripts with, you know, using the CloudFormation CLI. So yeah, what's right for you? That's up to you. You know, there are all sorts of options, as I showed before. And, you know, what's best for one may not be best for the same. You just need to have a look at the different strengths, what your organization needs. But the cool thing is, there are options. I mean, these are just 4. There's a whole lot of others. When I wrote my blog post, we had, you know, people talking about utilizing, you know, GitHub Actions for deployments and things like that. So, yeah, there's more than one way to skin a cat, as they say with AWS. You know, how do you want to do things? Depends. So yeah, options. Have a look, choose, and choose the thing that's for you. So, next steps. Go out and play. That's one of the cool things that I really love about AWS. So much of this is, you can be done in the free tier, or they cost very little. You know, say like $1 for your pipeline. So it's quite an affordable option. I've got a pipeline workshop where I sort of had a look at that first option of utilizing Code Commit, with Code Pipeline, pushing out to multiple accounts. I'm going to be extending on that with some of the other options of modifying that first one to utilizing the code connection and some of the Azure DevOps stuff. So have a look, play around. I'm going to be extending that. And yeah, you can follow me on LinkedIn and shoot me any questions if you've got anything after this as well. So thank you. All right, any questions? Yep, we'll just wait for the mic.
I've learned this time. Alrighty, one question. I guess, given that you've gone through a couple of those, do you notice much difference in the actual, I guess, experience from the developer's perspective, whether you're using different pipelines, or is it fairly similar? I'm guessing it would be pretty much, I commit my code, it goes through the PR and whatever the tool would be. From that, it seems like it should be fairly similar, but sometimes there are little quirks. Have you found any of those little quirks, or is it all pretty much the same sort of beast?
Yeah, so the first two options are very much the same thing when you're deploying, because you're still utilizing your code pipeline for that. So, you know, I think you definitely get the benefits of a more robust Git repo when utilizing, you know, GitHub, GitLab, etc. Other than code commit is functional, does what you need, but yeah, but those first two, utilizing the same sort of pipeline experience, so that's very similar, and especially if you're moving from code commit to the others, gives you the same feel. I did have some fun and games with the Azure DevOps side of things. I don't really use that. I mean, I only had a little bit of a play and some test things. But as I said, like, I did come across the fun and games with the JSON format for the config files. I was like, pushing this stuff out. Why is this not working? Like, I tried in code pipeline and that worked. I'd try and deploy it using CLI commands and that worked. Put it into, and it just wasn't working. It was like, and I finally found out, like, yes, the config files needed to be in this specific format. So, but once I got through that, yeah, it wasn't too bad. It was still, you know, it did everything that I wanted to do. And then obviously, if you're going for the build your own, then that's whatever you want it to be. And really, I think that's one, again, if you've got come from a heavy developer-focused company, you know, they're already utilizing those tools, those pipelines, and so you'll have that in-house knowledge of how do these things work, and you're just doing something different in the deploy step. So, and that can be pretty cool. You know, I played around like in another customer that I had to work with that were using BuildKite, and like that was pretty cool. I hadn't used that before. And that was a really cool looking, you know, CI/CD pipelines. So yeah, you know, the first two pretty easy. Azure DevOps, a little bit of thing, and the third one's like, yeah, you'd only sort of do that if you're already in there and used to those environments. Hang on a sec, wait for the mic.
So I've had Terraform connected through Azure DevOps.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So JSON is really a pain in the ass, particularly with HCL and so forth, things like that.
Yeah, yeah. And that sort of brings up another thing. Obviously, my talk was focusing on CloudFormation, but you've also, you know, got your pipeline to deploy your other, you know, Terraform, CDK, whatever. Yeah, Polemy. Yeah. So, you know, you choose your IAC of choice, but yeah, generally. So some of these things are obviously a bit more CloudFormation specific, but yeah, the general, I think a lot of the general concepts still hold. You can have a look and see, you know, choose what works for you, and there's all sorts of, you know, fun ways to do your pipelines. But in general, GitOps is the way to go. Use Git to control your code. Make sure you get peer reviews, and then push it out to your pipeline of choice. And consistency. All right. Any other questions? All right. Thanks again, everyone.
Let's give it some time.
Yes, I can see your.
Let me just wait here.
I'm seeing what you're seeing.
But not on the screen.
No, I'll switch that over once you're ready to go.
Can you just go full in here? Yeah, like this. Yep, I'm ready now.
Right.
Evening, everyone. My name is Jose, and I am a senior software developer at Monash University. And today I've been given this great opportunity to run this talk for the first time on about the worldwide waste or cloud waste, a proactive approach to clean up and cost optimization in AWS. So welcome everyone to this talk, and welcome to those joining online as well. Just to talk about me, to begin with, I am a software developer with 5 years of experience in Australia, 3 of them with Monash University and 2 others with a company called MindAtlas, which is also based in Melbourne. Current project is written in Moodle as a baseline, favorite operating system, Linux, Ubuntu. Programming languages, PHP, but I also do a bit of JavaScript as well, SQL, a bit of Python, and Java. Favorite IDE, PHP Storm, and outside coding, you will find me in the kitchen, not eating, but exploring with the different recipes every now and then, as I enjoy cooking for my family. Average sleep hours on a good night, I get about 5 to 6 hours of sleep, usually less, which is not good, so that's something I need to work out to improve my general well-being. Yes, in general, I'm a software developer, always seeking for new challenges, and I guess that's why I am here today on this side of the room presenting this talk, instead of being like, or remain quiet at my desk, writing code or debugging, looking into issues, or just watching YouTube videos. I decided to challenge myself to come here and run this presentation for you guys. I strongly believe that the information or the content I put together into these slides needs to be shared, and hopefully that will be helpful for many of my peers and also for all of the AWS cloud enthusiasts. So without that much introduction, let's move on to the agenda. We're going to talk about understanding cloud waste, identifying the problem, building the solution, automation with AWS, promoting collaboration and knowledge sharing. There will be key takeaways, and also a Q&A section at the end. Okay, at first glance, if you see that title, Worldwide Waste, you would think that we're going to talk about environment, or we're going to talk about industrial waste or construction waste, electronic waste, and so on. But that's not correct. We're going to talk about cloud waste because it's a big problem in today's world, and also because it is, I feel the cloud waste is impacting everyone in technology. Just as the planet struggles to manage the trash, the digital world also has its big challenges. And in recent years, we've been able to see how rapid the growth of the cloud computing has gone, leading to incredible enhancements, incredible advancements, and allowing us to scale and innovate in incredible ways like never before. However, with this waste also comes an often overlooked waste or consequence, which is waste. At this point, I believe that the cloud waste needs a lot of attention because it's causing a lot of problems for many companies, many organizations. Let's think about it. In the same way that we accumulate physical waste that pollutes our oceans, the cloud waste manifests in unused resources and over-provision services, and also in this storage, abandoned storage. So in this case, we want to transmit or share with you guys that there are things that we can do to prevent these issues. For example, in this talk, we're going to explore the factors that contributes to cloud waste, the impacts on the environment and the impacts on the budget. And with that in mind, I guess most importantly, we're looking to the best ways or the best practices that we can adopt to prevent or to reduce this waste. So by doing this, we're not only helping or optimizing our waste or the ways that we manage the cloud waste, but we also are contributing to a more sustainable cloud management in our AWS accounts. So let's take a closer look at how we can tackle the cloud waste and how can we make or create a more greener and cleaner cloud. To begin with the presentation, I'd like to share with you some of the statistics or figures that will help you to see how big or how problematic this can be in an organization. For example, with this, according to this source, 49% of cloud-based businesses struggle to control cloud costs. And according to that report, also in 54% of cases, cloud waste stems from a lack of visibility into cloud cost. Additionally, they also found that according to 44% of executives, at least a third of their cloud spend is wasted. Nearly half of the respondents say that managing multi-cloud environments is challenging. Another important factor that was found in one of the studies is that 7 out of 10 companies aren't sure what they spend their cloud budget on. And that means that only 30% of the survey organizations knew where their cloud budget was going exactly. Before moving on, I just want you to be aware that what is an EC2 instance and what is an EVS volumes in this context. In AWS, for those who don't know, in AWS, an EC2 instance is essentially a virtual computer that runs applications in the cloud. And just like a physical server, it allows you to run software, store data, and process tasks. On the other side, we have EVS volumes, so Elastic Block Store, which is a type of storage that acts like a drive for your EC2 instance, and it will store data persistently. When we were looking at this issue that we had, we needed to understand that unused resources is the same as wasted money. In many organizations, allocate resources that they forget to clean up or maintain. And a common issue that we wanted to bring to your attention tonight is with unattached EVS volumes. but not because it's the only problem, but it's just that we're going to take just a small sample out of all of those AWS services that can be generating cloud waste. And sometimes this happens because many companies just want development teams to bring up solutions to resolve problems, but they don't usually spend time to see if that is the most optimal solution for their needs. And they obviously end up wasting money in unused resources. What are the impacts of having those unused resources? Well, organizations can pay hundreds of thousands of dollars monthly on unused storage, and obviously for companies with cloud bills in the millions, this will result in tens of millions of dollars in cloud waste annually. Some real industry examples of unused EVS in 2023, some organizations reported wasted money of 17.6 billion on unused or underutilized cloud resources. And we have this global IT company who found over 1,200 Orvan EVS volumes in their cloud environment, costing them nearly $100,000 annually. So imagine the amount of money they were spending on. If you think of, you're wondering how can we end up with that many EVS volumes in available state, there could be many reasons. And you can see in there, for example, instance termination without volume cleanup. This is very common because when people terminate EC2 instances, they usually think that the EVS volumes will be deleted as well with the EC2 instance termination, but they didn't, many people don't realize there is an attribute there that you need to actually configure to indicate that you also want the EVS volume to be deleted. Volume detachment for maintenance or migration, that's another way of ending up with EVS volumes in available state, just because after doing maintenance, it could be very likely to leave those EVS volumes unattached. Testing and development environment, this is another common reason, and basically in a development environment you are able and free to create as many EVS volumes as you want, and also to delete and create EC2 instances, so that can lead to unattended or unattached EVS volumes. Same with snapshot-based restore, improper automation, and manual detachment during troubleshooting. So at this point in my company, in the organization I work for, this year we had cost optimization initiative who brought up to our attention many issues in our AWS accounts. And one particular issue, the one that we are talking about today, is that two of the accounts in our company were detected or were identified as contributing to cloud waste, because they found that we had EVS volumes in unused state. Back then, just a bit of a story of what was happening is that I am a software developer working for a product and doing basically development. I don't get that much involvement into AWS, but I always wanted to have the opportunity to work on something related to AWS, because that personally I feel like the best way of learning will be hands-on, right? And I saw this opportunity to get into the AWS world because it will allow me to understand the platform in a proper way. At that time, at this time, we have a third-party company managing AWS account, which sometimes make opportunities a bit limited. But no matter what, I wanted to learn about the cloud technologies, and I started working on this, trying to understand what an unattached EVS volume means, how can I find out the owner of that EVS volume, and obviously how I can determine the reason why the EVS volume was left available. And that helped me out a great deal. And just to give you a visual representation of what we have in our AWS account infrastructure, you will see there that we have a prod environment and also a non-prod environment account. both of them with multiple environments. And I just wanted to give you a sample of how they are configured. Some of them are with EC2 instances, RDS instances, which is often shared between environments, Amazon ECS services, and also load balancers. In one of the accounts we have 4 environments, in the other account we have 3 environments. So that makes a bit more challenging this problem of cloud waste and overlooking of those unused resources. With that in mind, it was found in the report that we were incurring into this total waste per year, about almost $1,500 a year. And yeah, it doesn't look like too big, but like, why not? And it was a very nice opportunity to not only tackle issues on the AWS, on the EVS side, but also to think in the future about other resources. So at the point of getting this information about the EVS volumes, I guess the journey didn't end in there, because it was, I mean, at that point I was able to delete those EVS volumes, right? And forget about the problem. But I knew that this was coming, was going to become a more recurrent problem for us. And we didn't want to be reported again in the next year. So instead of me doing the job manually or someone else doing the job manually, I was thinking that we might have an opportunity to do or to automate this process. And I started finding information about AWS Lambda, and the ultimate goal in that space was to build an automated solution that detects and deletes those volumes automatically. For those who already know about Lambda, yes, you know the drill. It's serverless, it's cost efficient, and it only runs when it's called. For those who are new to Lambda here in the audience or maybe online, think about of Lambda as a cloud magician that only shows up to do one trick at a time, and all that you need to do is to tell it what trick to perform and when to do it. It's a very cheap AWS resource, and through the code you can set up an event trigger that can make the Lambda run when you need. So what I was looking forward to create with the Lambda was to somehow scan all the unattached EVS volumes in the account regularly, and once it detects an EVS volume which is available, then there will be a couple of verifications. It can be anything that you like, but in our approach we went with the tags, and we have a specific tag that indicate whether or not an EVS volume that is in available state has to be deleted or not. What are the benefits? Well, there's no manual intervention required, and runs on a schedule, and also ensures continuous monitoring. It reduces also the chances of human error. Just because I wasn't sure whether or not those EVS volumes were going to be claimed by any owner in the future, I also wanted to implement a snapshot of those EVS volumes as we delete them, just in case we have someone claiming ownership moving forward. But that's something totally optional, to be honest. This is a visual representation of what the Lambda is doing. It's pretty simple, and that's one of the most interesting things that I have found through my journey learning about AWS. Sometimes you think that in AWS the resources configurations are a bit complicated, but when you learn and when you get to know how they work, then it makes the design and the implementation pretty straightforward. So this diagram here is showing you that a Lambda function is triggered by an event bridge, and will scan EVS volumes on your account and will ask whether they are available or not. If they are available, then it will do this verification in the tagging, and if it's not tagged, it is a candidate to be deleted and create a snapshot, record logs, and end the process. And if it's tagged as do not delete, then we don't do anything with the EVS volume. So I'd like to share with you a demo of how that Lambda works. Again, don't think about the EVS volumes only. Think that we can also implement this Lambda function for other resources. And at the end of the presentation, I will share with you guys the repository where you can take this Lambda and make it your own. You can start from scratch, exploring in your personal accounts in AWS, and I can assure you, you will have a lot of questions there. You will learn a lot from this Lambda function. So yeah, let's go and see the demo for now. Okay, so here we have the option to create the Lambda function, as you can see. Let me just play. So yeah, at this point we are creating the Lambda function. You need to have permissions, and you need to actually, sorry, just let me step by step. Okay, in the runtime we changed that to Python 3.12. And I was going to say about the permissions that we have to set up an existing, a role in AMI, so you can have access through the Lambda to manage all the resources, CloudWatch, ECS, EC2s, and S3, and all the resources that you are playing around in the Lambda function itself. So once you have that role, you can configure that in the Lambda as well. So once you create the Lambda function, it's just a matter of just writing your function in there, which is coming. If you clone the repository, the README file includes instructions for you to do this. That Lambda function will needs to be deployed, and after that, what's proceeding is the setup of the event bridge. For this Lambda, I'm configuring the Lambda to be running once per month. So that's the event bridge resource. So we just have to add the rule name in there, and also add the role description. And the schedule expression, as I told you, is a cron expression. In the README file, you will find instruction on how to configure that as well. But that one will be running once a month. There's one extra space in there. And that is the event bridge. If you see, that is enabled by default. You can see the configuration and the events bridge base. As you can see, it is going to run once per month at 8 a.m. In the morning. So once that's set up, we are ready to run the Lambda function. But obviously, we need some use cases, right? So we need to set up EBS volumes in available state with tags and without tags. So that's the next step in here. So we navigate to EC2 console. We go to volumes and verify that there is no volume for these demo purposes. We create a small EVS for testing purposes. We don't add any tags for this one, and after we refresh, we'll see the state is available. Let's create a second one, same size, and this time we're going to add a tag. Our tag will be do not delete with dash in between, and that will indicate the Lambda that this volume cannot be deleted. So let's create that volume, and as you can see, after refreshing, that we have two volumes there, one to be deleted and one that doesn't need to be deleted. So after we run the Lambda, we expect one of them to go away, and we expect also to have a snapshot for that EVS volume. So let's go and test the Lambda. We should expect a green confirmation in there. The Lambda is giving you a JSON object with volumes IDs that are deleted, and also the snapshots that's being created. That is also logging into AWS CloudWatch services, and it's all done from the Lambda. So if we go into the log stream, we'll be able to see that trace as well. So now if we go to the EVS volumes, we'll see that one of the EVS volumes is being deleted, the other one remains available, and there is one snapshot for that EVS volume. If we want to run the Lambda again, that will give us nothing because there is nothing to delete after the first run. And that can also be seen in the log stream groups. So yep, that is pretty much what this version of Lambda is doing. Let me just go back again. Just bear with me. If you wonder whether the Lambda function is done and if that is the end of this automation, well, the answer is no. There are also other alternatives as CloudFormation, for example, that can help you out to configure the Lambda function and preventing you to do manual tasks like uploading or downloading Lambda and configuring an AMI role for this. So the CloudFormation will help you out with that. It will help you out with consistencies across environments, easy to adapt and reuse, enhanced collaborations, and also it will automate updates and rollbacks. This is a work that has been implemented in a non-prod account for our environment. And yeah, for being conscious of time, there's no demo for this CloudFormation, but surely it would be nice to present this in the future as well. And as I said before, don't think about AWS only as the candidates to be cleaned up or removed in a new state, but also think about abandoned S3s that hasn't been accessed for a long time. For example, we can also have RDS, ECS, AWS logs, load balancers, and EC2 instances that can incur in costs if they are not being utilized. Just to give you a bit more of an example, an idle EC2 instance can actually cost between $70 and $500 per month, depending on the instance type and the region. For example, this large enterprise discovered that they were spending $4 million annually on EC2 instances that they were only utilized during business hours. By implementing automated shutdowns and cleans up, they reduced their cloud cost by 40%. Or, for example, we have unused elastic IPs. They cost around $3.60 per month for each unused IPs. And we have a healthcare company who discovered that over 100 unassociated elastic IPs were found in their account and were generating $4,000 per year. So by automating and by implementing these sort of solutions, they can reduce, obviously, cost and prevent those waste. So that is the QR code for the Lambda function. If you are keen on playing around, feel free to create pull requests if you have to, if you need to. You can also, my contacts are in there in GitHub, so you'll be able to contact me if you have any questions. Just leave that for some time. So with this presentation, we also wanted to promote a culture of cost awareness because, yes, we understand that automation sometimes can seem intimidating, but by implementing those automations, we proactively apport with solutions, and anyone can contribute to efficiencies improvement. So if you are working in your company and you can advise on these items, on this cloud waste in your AWS accounts, surely you will be well rewarded for that. We also want to foster cost-conscious teams. By promoting awareness of unnecessary cloud waste, we build a more efficient and responsible organization and community as well. What are the key takeaways of my presentation? Well, we want to go home, make you go home thinking about that even without deep knowledge, it is possible to automate resource cleanups, and which brings massive cost savings to your organizations. We want to leave clear that cost awareness matters. And it really does, because unattended cloud resources add up to your bills. And small initiatives like these ones can make a big difference in reducing cloud spend. And you can grow from there in other, you can expand those measures to other AWS resources. Share and collaborate. Well, obviously, we believe strongly in collaboration across teams, because that creates a culture of efficiency, learning, and shared successes. And that's what we're trying to achieve today as well in here. So with that, I am done with my presentation for today. Thanks for the attendance, for those who made it in person, and also for those who joined online on YouTube. That was all from me, and now it's time for Q&A, if anyone has any questions in the audience or online.
What I see. Oh, okay. Oh. What I take from this is that if you take IOC, infrastructure of code, that is a declarative of your entire environment to begin with. So. Yeah. Oh, talk a bit louder. IOC, so infrastructure of code, sort of gets rid of this in many respects, because it's a declarative of the environment to begin with.
Yeah.
The only thing that would come out of that would be the drift of hardware and so forth and things like that. So what's your take on, say, IOC over automating when you could, suck it in with the import, something like Terraform, and then you get your infrastructure, and that would be your declarative of the environment, all your costs and bits and pieces. And instead of automating it, you would actually have it in a repository like Git ops and things like that to get around the problem in the first place. So what's your thoughts on that? Yep,
definitely. I feel like this automation was the first step in this big project of cost optimization initiatives. There are many ways in which this can be addressed, but having this first step, having the understanding of what AWS or the AWS services represents from the bills or from the cost perspective, I think is really, really helpful for at least it was for me, to go and move on to other technologies, for example, like CloudFormation. And I was able to see CloudFormation as a big solution for the problem that we were having in one of our accounts. And I guess from there, we can try anything.
Look,
like what you said.
I can understand what you're saying, but at the same time, if you have if you have it in a declarative environment, you've already got you can define your wastes. You can see your wastes.
Yep.
I mean, to me, it seems like a simpler process if you set up an IOC, whether it's CloudFront, Terraform, Tofu, Pulumi, which I'm sort of pushing at the moment. But irrespective, to me, it also gives you the version control over everything, and you've got a full, complete declarative environment when you can sort of, okay, we don't use this, get rid of it.
Yeah, right,
and
right.
Then update, and boom, it's gone.
I'll do the answer. Well, that is, we're implementing that actually at the moment, but we inherit at the beginning that there wasn't. Sorry? Yeah. We are gradually doing it. It's a more complicated than. We're not a startup. We inherit a lot of things that was done very, very, very quickly. And I'm sure here a lot of people know that a lot of time when we create things, inevitably quickly do it, and then not supposed to be in production, but it end up in production, and then it's in production for a while, and then all these things coming up. So we learn gradually, and all the new things that we're doing are in IOC. I absolutely 100% agree with you. If I'm starting Airbnb, 10 years ago, everything clean slate. I would definitely do it. But unfortunately, when we were doing it at the time, actually we joined after that. Yeah, yeah.
So we might leave that there, take it offline afterwards, just in the interest of time, and another question down the back. Debates are excellent, but yeah, let's not hold everybody else up who might want to go home.
Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. My question is quick one. Do you feel that the cloud service providers are also doing enough to cut down on this cloud waste?
Sorry, can you repeat? Sorry.
Do you feel that cloud service providers like AWS, are they doing enough, or they are actually liking the status because they are getting some money from
cool.
this?
Yeah. Well, I don't believe that they are done with this. They are working on many tools to help you out with reducing cloud waste. For example, they have the well-architected tools, and that will help you out understanding if you have unused resources. They have actually 3 pillars in that well-architected tool, and one of them is cost optimization. Sorry, and with that architected tool, which is completely free, you can go and inspect your design, your infrastructure, and come up with solutions for improving the optimization of your design. So yeah, I don't think they are left behind. They are constantly adding stuff for you to grow.
It's their income.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you all.
Let's fix that.
Yeah.
Because that's a good point. We've gotten to that point in time in the evening where it is marketplace time. Please raise your hand if you are currently looking for staff. Not a single, okay, it's going to be a really short marketplace segment.
It's either really long or really short. There's never.
Yeah, it's never in between. It's never in between. But that's okay. So, with that, we'd like to give a quick shout out again to our sponsors, Mantel Group, CEVO and NAB. Without their support, tonight wouldn't have happened. So thank them very much. Next meetup is, as always, last Wednesday of the month, 27th of November. But please note there is a venue change. We are at the NAB office at 700 Burke Street, not here. So down Marvel Stadium way. That, yeah. Not yet, not here, that way. And if you're online, just, yeah, west. Unless you're, never mind. It depends on where you are. Never mind. Yeah, exactly. So with that, thank you all for coming again. If you would like to be one of the crazy people that helps put this sort of stuff on, please come and talk to us after tonight. Thank you very much to both our sponsors, both our speakers, and we will see you all again next month.